On April 13, 1975, a bus was attacked in Ain al-Rimmane, Beirut, killing 27 people. Within hours, Lebanon descended into a civil war. But this wasn't just a random act of violence. It was the explosion of tensions that had been building up for years before. To understand this event, we need to look beyond the attack itself and examine the deeper causes behind it. Lebanon's political system was based on religion. Power was divided between different sects, with the president being a Maronite Christian, the prime minister being a Sunni Muslim, the head of parliament being a Shia Muslim, and other positions distributed similarly. But this system was based on a 1932 census, when Christians were slightly the majority. By the 1970s, this was no longer the case, but the system hadn't changed. The population was shifting. Muslim communities, especially Shia and Sunni groups, were growing faster than the Christian populations. This created pressure for more political representation, but the system remained fixed, increasing frustration amongst the Muslims. There was also major economic inequalities. Christian groups were generally wealthier, more educated, and held more powerful jobs, while many Muslim communities were poorer and less represented. So political inequality and economic inequality were reinforcing each other. Lebanon was also considered a mosaic society, which means it was deeply divided socially. Different religious groups lived separately, went to different schools, and followed their own laws. Instead of one unified society, Lebanon functioned more like separate communities living side by side. By the early 1970s, all of these tensions in the different religious groups have turned into militias. Militias were heavily armed and in some cases were even more powerful than the national army. One of the most important causes of the Lebanese civil war was the presence of the PLO, or Palestinian Liberation Organization, in Lebanon. After being expelled from Jordan in the 1970s during Black September, the PLO relocated much of its leadership and armed forces into Lebanon. By the early 1970s, hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees were living in the country, and the PLO established military bases, particularly in southern Lebanon and in parts of Beirut, from which they launched attacks against Israel. This often led to Israeli retaliation on Lebanese territory. Over time, the PLO began to function as a state within a state, controlling areas and operating independently of the Lebanese government. This created deep divisions inside Lebanon. Many Christian groups saw the PLO as a threat to national sovereignty and stability, while many Muslim and leftist groups supported it politically and militarily. In this way, the PLO became both an external and internal factor, connecting Lebanon's internal tensions to a wider regional conflict. Now that we understand some of the factors of why the political atmosphere was already tense in Lebanon, on April 13, 1975, in a Christian neighborhood in Beirut called Ain al-Rimmane, members of the Kataib party were attending a church baptism ceremony. During the event, gunmen in a passing car opened fire. The attack was supposedly to target their leader, Pierre Jmeil. However, he escaped unharmed, but 4 people were killed, including Pierre Jmeil's bodyguard. The exact identity of the attackers was never clearly established. However, the Kataib party immediately blamed Palestinian fighters for the shooting. Later that same day, a bus entered Ain al-Rimmane. Inside the bus were mostly Palestinian civilians, along with some Lebanese passengers who supported the Palestinian group. Many of them were ordinary people, not fighters, but they were returning from a Palestinian gathering. Waiting in the area were armed members of the Kataib party militia, which was a right-wing Christian militia that strongly opposed the Palestinian presence in Lebanon. Those gunmen were already organized and heavily armed, as tensions in the country had been building up for years. They used automatic weapons and fired continuously into the vehicle. The bus was completely riddled with bullets, and around 27 people were killed. Most of those who were killed were unarmed civilians. The attack was widely seen as retaliation for the earlier morning shooting, and the response was immediate. Palestinian fighters, along with allied Lebanese groups, began retaliating across Beirut. Gun battles broke out between militias in multiple areas of the city. Within hours, Beirut was descending into chaos, fighting continued for days and quickly spread beyond the initial neighborhood. This moment is often compared to the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. In both cases, a single violent event didn't actually cause the war, but acted as a spark that ignited tensions that had been building for years before. Just like Europe before World War I, Lebanon was full of alliances and was divided and heavily armed and unstable. The bus attack is often seen as the beginning of the Lebanese Civil War, but in reality, it was just a spark. Years of political imbalance, demographic change, economic inequality, and social division had already pushed Lebanon to the edge.